Good day, grade 12 learners, and welcome to today's English home language lesson. My name is Bosh Suchit, and today we'll be talking about the essay writing, which is part of your creative writing paper and aspects of English home language. The lesson is brought to you proudly by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Sci-Bono Discovery Center and broadcast to you also proudly by the Pakama Research and Development Center. So as I mentioned, we will be recapping the essay writing today in this lesson, and I'll take you through this step by step so that you can master the skill which you will use in paper 3, which you'll write in your June exam. If we are going through with the June exam, the trial exams or prelim exams, and obviously the final exam this year that you'll be writing. So let's look at this aspect called creative writing. In this lesson, we will be focusing on the following, which, as I mentioned, the types of essays, which is essay writing, and then how to approach answering this kind of question in the exam, as well as when you do your SBA formal tasks for the year of 2022. The structure of your paper 3 or even a question paper or for an SBA task will be looking like this. So it'll be comprising of 2 sections, which includes section A in paper 3, which is the one we're discussing today, of 50 marks, your essay, which requires a word count of between 400 and 450 words. And then we also have section B, which I dealt with previously in other lessons, which is transactional writing, also consisting of 50 marks, they're requiring a word count of 180 to 200 words. Your allocation or time allocation for this paper in terms of the section A and B is as follows. Section A, we need approximately 80 minutes from you here to answer the question thoroughly and efficiently, actually. And then in terms of section B, we also need you to spend approximately about 70 minutes there, where you're doing 2 tasks of 35 marks and requiring to spend some time there as well. All right, so I did mention to you the focus is the essay writing. But today we're going to quickly also go through the writing process, and you can see it's actually in 5 steps that we're going to look at. The first one being planning, very important. Second, looking at a draft, then revising that particular piece of work and editing it will be the next step, and then finally publishing or producing it. So the first step of any kind of writing, grade 12s, requires you to plan. If you do not plan, you are going to obviously go down the route of failing the task or failing in life as well. So always plan. And in terms of planning in this aspect, we're looking at brainstorming the ideas for your essay writing or writing in general. We're going to use keywords here and mind maps as well. And this is now actually, as I mentioned, the most important part, and it's the pre-writing phase that you are working with. So you can sketch diagrams, use your spider diagrams, mind maps, write keywords, jot down points and things there, all before you actually start going through the final process of submitting. Step 2, as I mentioned now, is the drafting aspect. And this is where we're going to now use keywords, ideas, and mind maps, again, to create your story. So you will start to now produce a piece of work. Once you've done the first piece of writing, you're now going to go back, revisit it, and check if that piece of work makes sense. Does it state what you wanted to state? And if it doesn't, you then are able to amend it here or change what is not necessary for you. And then in the editing step, which is step 4, we're asking you here to please take the time, check your language usage. Have you used the words in the correct way? Have you used the correct spelling of the words? And have you effectively constructed a sentence that makes sense to a reader when they pick up the piece of work to read? And then finally, we're looking at the publishing step. This is where we're now asking you to construct your final product, which you will submit for marking at the end of the time that's allocated to you. So there you have it, the writing process done, dusted. Now let's go through the next part of a strategy that you can use when you are looking at essay writing or writing in general.
Created using Powtoon.
Well, there you have it. All right, that particular strategy on Peel there, that can be used either to write the complete essay, or you can use it for each paragraph that you are constructing throughout the essay. Remember, please, it is an easy strategy to use. Make your point, explain it, further explain it, giving us concrete evidence or concrete information about what you're saying, and then you are linking this entire thing into a final piece. All right, so when you have some time and you're going back to review the lesson, look at that strategy clearly and focus on those points. So the essay, grade 12s, is a piece of writing in which you as the writer are going to do the following. You're going to express your viewpoint on a particular topic that's given. You're also then going to kind of narrate a story to us based on experiences. Now, this could be your personal experience. Maybe you went through something that was similar to what the topic's asking you, then you're allowed to speak about that in the essay. Or it could also be based on the experience of others. So this is quite a nice piece of work to work with, which is the essay. All right. In an essay, whether it is a narrative, as I'll discuss with you later, or any type of essay, there has to be three important things that we're looking at. So first thing is, it must have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. So let's look at that. What is each of these things? The introduction, grade 12s, is simply that first part that catches the attention of the reader. So you want to make the reader go on reading further. So you have to grab his or her attention. Then it must be striking, obviously, and as I mentioned, allow us to read further. Then we're going to the second part, which is the body. Now, the body consists of a few paragraphs, and I'll show that to you just now in a diagram form as well. And this is where your full content, in other words, everything you want to say, is contained in the body of the essay. So this must be divided into paragraphs, and we're looking at about more or less 3 to 4 paragraphs in the essay to get that word count of 400 to 450 words. And why we say that we're looking at about 3 to 4 paragraphs is because we want you to ensure that when you go through the process, each of the paragraphs will discuss different things. So you're not going to go now and repeat the same thing throughout the essay. So you must have a main idea in each paragraph with your supporting details in that particular paragraph. And then we come through to the final part, which is the conclusion. Now, the conclusion here basically is there to round off your essay. Okay, it's going to sum up everything you have said in an effective way, and you want to make sure that it's not a long, drawn-out piece of work as well. So keep it to about 3 to 4 sentences maximum when you're ending off your essay. All right. So as I mentioned, here's a structure for you in a diagram form. There has to be the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. I did mention capture the reader's attention with the introduction. Then remember short and get to the point. Sweet. Body, we're looking at your 3 paragraphs and each of them containing a main idea, and that idea is explained further in that particular paragraph. Remember here we're looking for a logical sequence of events or thoughts. Don't go from one thing to the next thing which doesn't really link. Make sure when you're doing that editing process that you are going to ensure that the thought from one goes into the next thought and into the next idea. All right, make use again of the interlinking words as I mentioned before. These words could be, for example, furthermore, however, although, those kind of words, okay, for you to start each paragraph. And then in the conclusion, what are we doing? We are summing up, or we sum up your essay here in the conclusion, and we link the information contained in the previous paragraphs in the final one now, the conclusion. Right. Let's go through the genres that you are supposed to know by the time you are in grade 12, and hopefully you have learned these over the years. So the first one is what we call the narrative essay. Now the narrative essay is there for you as a writer to entertain us. Tell us a story. And when you tell us a story, you can either tell us the story in the past tense, or we can use a different tense as well, but we want you to really stick to the past tense. And it has to be convincing. All right? We don't want to listen to something or read something that doesn't really make us feel confident about it. We're not really thinking this learner hasn't made us really catch his idea. So convince us when you are writing the narrative essay. All right. Then we've got the descriptive essay. This one is to describe something. Okay. And we're going to discuss this further as well when I take you through each of them separately. Also, in this descriptive essay, you can describe someone in a vivid manner. Okay. Make us interested in that person. The third type of essay would be the reflective essay. And here we are asking you to give us an emotional reaction to a topic. Give us that feeling, explain that feeling to us that you have on a particular topic or a particular matter of interest of yours. It can be personal, and you can also then include here the expression of your own feelings, which shows us that you are sincere about what you are saying. Then we go on to the next type, which is the argumentative essay. And this is the one that we love because all of us love to argue our viewpoint. We'd like to make sure that people understand why we have that viewpoint. And that's where this particular type of essay comes in. So here we essentially are sticking to a particular way of writing it. And that is that you take a case and you look at it from one side. In terms of that, a point, one-sided point of view. And you're going to convince your reader that that opinion that you hold is 110% correct. And you're going to explain this is why you believe it to be so. And this is written in the present tense. Okay? So a nice one to use when you are writing, and one that you really can maximize the opportunities given to you to work with. The next one is the discursive essay. Now, this one is a little bit different from the argumentative essay in the sense that it now allows us to give 2 opposing viewpoints. So we are going to present both sides of the argument in this particular type of essay. Then we have the expository one, which is a factually based essay. Okay, so all the facts are included there, and this information is presented then in a very systematic or logical way. So it's from point 1 to point 3, to point 2 to point 3, 4, and 5. in a systematic way. It's not all over the place. So that's a little bit of a challenging one to work with, but definitely if you are a person who has got all the facts of a particular topic in your head and you know what to say, then you can go write the essay in the expository type of essay. All right. So this particular essays that we work with, grade 12s, will be marked according to what we call a rubric. And that rubric has criterias that we look at. Now, you would have done the essay since grade 8. And hopefully by the time you got to grade 10, you had mastered what are the aspects that we are looking at or the categories we are looking at. In this case, now the criteria we are looking at when we are marking your essay. And I'm going to take you through that as well to just clarify that for you. So in terms of the first criteria we're looking at, it's your content and your planning, which is a mark allocation of 30 on the rubric. So we're looking at the different levels, giving us a total of 30 there. But that aspect itself costs 60% of your mark allocation. So it's very important that the content is clear and it is effectively constructed. Okay? Then you've got the next aspect, which is the language, the style, and the editing part. So here we're looking at, as I mentioned, have you used the words in the correct way? Is the spelling correct? Is the right word used? Okay? Have you made use of the correct homonyms or antonyms that you have maybe used in your particular essay? Or even the synonyms, okay? Have you used them correctly? There we look at 15 marks with a weighting of 30%. And the final aspect is the structure. Have you followed the structure, which is, as I mentioned, introduction, body, conclusion. Can we see that logical flow? Can we see that thread going right through the essay that is giving us this this feeling of completeness that we've got your point of view? And that costs around 5 marks, as I've mentioned there, and it is a 10% weighting for you in this particular one as well. So there you have it, 50 marks that you need to get for the essay. All right, let's go to the next one. And now we're going to discuss each of the types of essays in as clear a manner as possible. So the first type of essay we're looking at is the narrative essay. And the narrative essay is usually written in the past tense. It is the one where we are going to tell a story, or we're going to talk about events that happen in the past. We are also going to look at the aspect where it does not have to be a true story. It can be something that you made up in your head, that you have formulated based on your life's experiences thus far. Okay? And it has to obviously be convincing, as I mentioned to you. So it's an easier type of essay to write, but you got to make sure that you follow the structure and that you ensure that you are convincing in how you have written this piece of work. Okay? Also, remember, the introduction must be captivating. And when we're looking at the ending, the conclusion, please, grade 12s, it is either satisfying or confusing. But it must not be something that I'm going to now, in my head, get an idea that this is how the learner is going to conclude the essay. So it should not be predictable. You can leave us in the lurch to think further if you want to, but don't make us now think that, okay, he said A, B, C, D, and therefore we will get this point, which is Z. Don't do that, okay? So please take the time when you are writing this essay to ensure that you keep us engaged throughout. And then finally, it must have a strong descriptive element. So use your adjectives here. Not too much, but do make use of it where you can describe the event very nicely. Describe what's happening in the story nicely as well for us. Okay, so let's look at this in terms of a diagram form. Now, if we're looking at the aspects that are important, the first one is the hook, a technique that you can use. So this is to outline a situation, all right, that will quickly stir our imagination. So if you look at the character on that particular diagram, if you can see it there, we've got Captain Hook, and which has the hand that has the hook. So that is to show you, grade 12s, just by looking at the hook on his hand, it now immediately inspires us to find out, why does he have the hook in his hand or on it as a hand? What's happened? Okay, so that first part is to hook our attention, grab our attention. Then we're looking at the exposition. Now here you are going to introduce the story. Yes, there will be the introduction. And in the introduction, you are going to include primary characters' names, for example. Give us a bit of the background of the person or that you are describing, for example, or the event that you are describing, which may include people in it. So give us the background. So here, if you look at the diagram I've got there, it is obviously the three bears story, okay? And at the back of them, you've got the picture of the cabin that is there as well. So then look at that kind of thing. That is a physical image that is now there for you to look at. So when you see it, think about how you would put words together to ensure that you give us an idea of what that picture is saying. Then we have the third part, which is the conflict part, right? This is where we have a situation that prevents us from achieving success. So within the essay that you're writing, the narrative essay, you are going to have a point of conflict. Something happened that wasn't nice. And therefore, you would see, as displayed here for you in the diagram, the two characters are facing their backs to each other. Okay, they are not in agreement. So there will be some kind of conflict between the two of them. And in the essay, when you're writing it, if you're having that part of conflict, which you should have, you need to make sure that you describe that nicely for us as well. Okay, what's preventing the outcome to be successful? Then we have other aspects, which is the rising action. Now here, what are the events we're looking at that are going to lead to the climax, where we are going to create this suspense? So there are things that you are going to describe in the narrative essay that will get us to a point of where we are going to wait now. What's going to happen next? So the rising action is that part where you're describing all the events that lead up to that point of now what happens with the characters or what happens in the story. The next aspect or the next technique you can use is the flashback one. And that one is when you're recalling a past event that happened. All right. In the diagram, you can see that lady there, or the image of the girl. She has so many different things that has happened in her life, in her mind. That's now, all around her ideas in her mind there. So that can be used where you can take those ideas that you have in the back of your mind and you now put that in words to give us the final piece of work. Okay. So recall the past events that have happened. The climax, as I mentioned, so here you get to a point where it is now what's going to happen next. It's the most exciting point. It has to be created in your essay because that's what we're looking forward to. At this point in time, what's going to happen? We want to see now from here the turning point in the story, in the plot. So something has to happen for something else to occur. And that's there where the climax is described. Okay? And you can see that image there of the characters who have been obviously engaging in a battle, for example, and it's at the point where this gentleman now wants to achieve success. He's angry, he's frustrated, and he's going to now take the next step. And hopefully you will do that as well when you're writing your essay. Give us those ideas. Okay, then we've got the last two parts, which is the falling action. And that is now where you have got to that point of tension, that climax, the turning point has occurred. Now we're going to move into relaxing the situation, releasing the tension of the story. Okay, where the story is now going to move towards to more of a conclusion, something where the character has fought, for example, he's got through all the emotions, the frustrations and stuff, and now he's going towards a conclusion. Either he's going to be victorious or he's going to be defeated. So that is where we're going to look at the falling action part. And then finally, we have the resolution. That is now where we have the outcome of the story, where you describe, has the characters achieved what they wanted to achieve or not? Show us how things end up for each of the characters that you have described in this particular essay or wrote about. So if it was about your personal experiences, for example, you will show us, what did you learn? Okay, how did it end up for you when that experience was over? So grade 12s, that's a nice method to use, and hopefully you are going to use that when you're doing the narrative essay. All right, so here's an example of how you could write an introduction of a narrative. I'm going to read it for us. It was a dark and stormy night. The rain fell in torrents, except at occasional intervals, when it was checked by a violent gust of wind, which swept up the streets, rattling along the housetops, and fiercely agitating the scanty flame of the lamps that struggled against the darkness. So can you see how many adjectives are used there? Things that are describing a simple thing like a heavy thunderstorm, all right, has been described in such a way to make the stormy night seem so much worse than one would imagine it to be, where there's this gust of wind and the streets are rattling with sounds that are coming from obviously things clanging against each other and creating this noise. Okay, and a very aggressive flame that has also been described for us there. So that's kind of an example that you can look at when you are trying to construct the introduction of a narrative essay. So grade 12s, what do you need to do right now? Start practicing. How am I going to write an introduction for an essay? And I'm going to take you through the others as well and look at the possible ways of writing an introduction for the various types of essays that you can work with. All right? Your checklist for the narrative. Please, grade 12s, ensure that you follow this. Ask yourself these questions. Is my introduction attention grabbing? Did I write in the past tense? Have I maintained the reader's interest in what I'm saying throughout the essay? Have I made use of words that talk about, appealing to the senses, things that will appeal to the sense of taste, to the sense of sound, to the sense of smell? Have I used words that will appeal to those senses? And finally, have I included descriptive elements and concluded this essay well? Okay, good. Let's go to the second type of essay, the descriptive one. And this one is now, again, describing a person, maybe a memory that you have of something that happened previously, a situation in life that you faced. Maybe a place now brings back memories of what you have experienced previously in life. So this type of essay will allow you to do that. You can even describe an object that you maybe loved over the years that is no longer in your possession. Okay? So the descriptive essay is often one that's used to create an atmosphere, a mood, to let that reader come into that atmosphere that you experienced when you were going through these particular trials, maybe, or particular events in life. All right, so here we make use of figures of speech, and we use your descriptors like your adjectives and your adverbs. But please don't go overboard. Use them just enough to ensure that you do capture our attention throughout your essay. So create that powerful image and keep us there as you describe that particular image. Create that picture, grade 12s I mentioned, using those adjectives, okay? Choose the words that you are going to use carefully here because you want to get that desired effect. You want to keep us engaged and achieve the maximum marks here. So look at images of sight, sound, hearing, taste, touch, and make this as vivid as possible for us. Okay? So you can use your figures of speech in an original way. For example, this one. My hand like a starved snake rears my pockets for my thin, ever lean wallet. So in other words, the person's just looking for their wallet, which is described as thin, meaning there's not much money in it or cards in it, okay, which will have a monetary value. So he's described that, just looking for his wallet in his pocket, but he's described it as a snake that is starving, that is now trying to wriggle in the pockets, okay, and his hands are wriggling in the pockets to look for that wallet. The next example, also their grade 12s, is to make sure that you have experience of the topic. Please don't write on something that you know nothing about, because then it's not really going to be beneficial at all. So, first-hand knowledge, definitely important. Furthermore, please show us something. Don't tell us about it. So what do I mean here? I mean, for example, if you talked about footsteps that were creeping behind you, making the situation scarier, how would you show that? For example, like this. Crunching hit my ears from behind, accelerating the already rampant pounding of my heart. So where you would get that very almost scary image of, footsteps behind you that would freak you out firstly. Now when you're using it to show us that, you can use your adjectives and describe it like where your heart was where your heart was pounding and your veins and arteries were pulsating with blood flowing through it during the scary experience. Okay, so in an instance such as this, you want the reader to feel what you did. That surprise and that urgency that you have experienced, that fear, you want the reader to experience with you. So describing this crunching that hit your ears, for example, even through the pounding of your heart, not only creates a powerful visual in the mind of the reader, but it also gets that reader to identify the state your body was in when you had this particular intense moment. So look at that when you write as well. A checklist for you on the descriptive essay. Ask yourself these questions. Do you have experience or background about the topic that you have chosen here? Okay. Have you written it in the past or the present tense? Because in this case, both are acceptable. Have you created that image in the reader's head using the adjectives and the adverbs? Have you made use of sensory aspects here, which is your 5 senses, okay? Have you engaged with a person's 5 senses, okay? And have you used the figures of speech effectively throughout the essay? The next type of essay is the reflective essay, which here presents your views, your ideas, your thoughts, and your feelings on a particular topic that you have chosen. Usually, this is now looking at the past feeling that you've experienced and the feelings that you had from the past. Okay? It is tending to be very much personal and serious. So it's not as light-hearted as the narrative or the descriptive essay. The ideas or the thoughts that you have expressed here should reveal some sincerity. It must show us the personal involvement of yourself during this process of taking us through the journey, reflecting on what's happened before. All right? So, for example, you could reflect on your hopes or your dreams that you had previously. Now, have you achieved them at this particular point? Again, grade 12s, everything I'm saying to you right now in terms of the types of essays, these aspects must be there. But when you are looking at the topic, there you will decide, is it more tending towards the narrative, the descriptive, or the reflective? Okay? Or even the argumentative one. So when you see the topics in front of you, you will see which one or which type of essay it fits in with. Okay? Moving on, remember here the reflective essay, please. You have to write about what you know. Do not talk about things you don't know about because you will sound silly and it will not obviously leave a good taste for the reader. Include your thoughts, include your feelings. Look at the reflections that you've had in life throughout all of the different experiences. Reflect on those things that brought you to the point where you're at right now. Use interesting words for us, please. Make use of your metaphors, your personification, for example, figures of speech, and describe these, the image that you hold in your head, for example, describe that to us in words that make us understand that image that you hold in your head. All right. Then please, grade 12s, make use of this aspect where you can vary your tense in your essay. You can describe, okay, reflect on your past in relation to your present moment. In other words, what I'm saying to you, you are where you are right now because of things that have happened in your past. So you have the opportunity in the reflective essay to look at that. There could be an episode or two in your life that happened that is contained in the topic in front of you. And now you can take us through your growth from your past to where you are in the current position. Right? You can essentially use the flashback technique here. So you begin also in the present tense. You make reference to events and experiences written in the past and then return to the present. That's quite a good technique to use. And it's also something that you can use in terms of other types of writing that you may be part of in life going on after grade 12. So definitely things to take note of, right? Then the next thing I'm going to give to you is an example of, again, an introduction paragraph for a reflective essay. The topic here was the moment of truth. Look at how it's constructed. Everyone has that one moment which changes one's life. A moment that you wish had never happened. A moment that you cannot avoid or escape. The moment of truth. Now that has already told us that the writer is going to look at that moment of truth. What happened previously? That moment has come about because of what's happened maybe a few minutes ago or an hour ago. And it's going to obviously now be dead straight in your face and you can't escape it. You have to confront it. So the reflective essay gives you that opportunity. And the topic here of the moment of truth will tell you that you have to reflect, think deeply about something. All right? Good. And then here's your checklist. The word reflective for you, again, grade 12s here, is about reflecting. Okay? Reflect on something. Means to think deeply. Go into that back of that mind of yours that has so many ideas about the world and so many ideas about why you are in the situation. Think about it and then construct a piece of work. Right? Make use of other synonyms. Like, for example, consider, study, contemplate, dwell on. Okay? That you could use. Reflect also suggests. So the word reflect, I gave you the synonyms there, which would be consider, dwell on, and contemplate. And it can also suggest unhurried consideration of something. So you want to take yourself through the process slowly but surely and explain to us why you have arrived at that particular point in life. All right. Then that's again in a point form for you there. Okay. Reflective writing is thus about jotting down your response to experiences, opinions, events in life, or new information that you have gathered. It's about discussing your response to those thoughts or feelings. And it's about exploring your learning throughout your life experiences. And it gives you a chance to obviously look at how did you gain self-knowledge about yourself. Okay. Now we come to the next type of essay, which you all love, and I know I also like because I like to argue, and I'm sure you do as well. This is my viewpoint, and this is it. I'm not going to go any further. So, what's the point of arguing? It's because you want to get your point across. You want the person who's listening to you to believe in what you are saying. That what you are saying also is 150% true. So the argumentative essay here does the same thing. It allows you to try and convince the reader that your point of view is correct. So it's very much a specific point of view that you are talking about, and you're defending that point of view or that position you have taken. It is subjective in the sense that you are trying to convince us or persuade us about that viewpoint, and you want us to share it as well with you. Finally, the opinion of yourself here, the writer's opinion meaning yourself, is about the topic that you have in front of you, and therefore it has to be clearly set out throughout the essay. Good. It must also please be in the present tense. Ensure that you begin your essay by giving us your opinion or your point of view in the introduction. Thereafter, in the 3 to 4 paragraphs that you are going to write about this particular topic, you are going to take each view that you've mentioned in each paragraph and give us the reasons as to why you have got that viewpoint. For example, you can also use linking words like because, da 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 da. Therefore, it shows that this is why my viewpoint is correct. This has happened. However, this is why my belief is such. And therefore, I do not want to change my viewpoint. So those words can be used in that way when you're writing the argumentative essay. Going on with this, please ensure that you have a very strong conclusion that is clear and convincing, which states your opinion. You may repeat the same idea given in the introduction, but it must be written in a different way, please. Do not take the introduction and put it as a conclusion. Then it shows that there's been no development in your essay at all. So take the introduction, look at what you said there, and then sum up that viewpoint in the conclusion by stating, for example, in conclusion, this is why I have this particular opinion about this subject. So here are some topics that you could look at when looking at what is the type of argumentative essay topic. For example, the police are not the problem, people are. So there, you will immediately formulate an idea. Do you agree with that topic or you disagree with the topic, the statement? So do you believe that police are not the problem and that people are? Or do you believe that police are the problem and people are not? Okay, so you'll come up with your decision and then obviously argue it. All superheroes do not wear capes. Now that you can obviously see is an easier one to argue. Should monuments that represent colonialism be removed? Now that's something that is going to be appealing to someone who knows about colonialism. But there could be topics that are talking about everyday experiences that you faced, okay? There's topics that, may talk about the pandemic that's happening currently. Do you, for example, agree that we need to be, a little bit more relaxed with dealing with the COVID pandemic, right? So the argumentative essay will definitely try to challenge ideas that you hold strongly in your mind. Another one, peaceful protest, the only option. Now, that one you can definitely have a ball with because you would have an opinion to say that this is either true or not, and that protests do not have to be peaceful to get the viewpoint across. But then again, you have to have information that is substantial to give us that particular viewpoint as valid. So please, when you do the argumentative essay, ensure that you have the facts about the topic and that facts are linked to your viewpoint. If they are not, then you're going to lose the plot in that essay and not score the maximum marks. Good. So now we're going to have a little bit of a look of the argumentative essay versus the discursive essay. Now, that particular diagram given to you here is talking about your main idea. This is what you are thinking. And then reason 1, 2, and 3, which will then essentially be 3 paragraphs. Okay, so the first idea you hold, give me your reason, your idea, and then give me your explanation. My first idea, and then I want to explain. Okay, then I will then have my second one and have a detail. Third one, details. Okay, about it. So your reason and the details. Okay, the reasons for that particular viewpoint. And then you could also have a counter argument. But then again, when we're looking at the argumentative essay, you don't include the counter argument. The counter argument comes in when we're looking at the discursive essay, because there you would have then both viewpoints. Okay, so when you weigh all the evidence, you can conclude that you are either for or against. So if you are leaning more towards the for part, then that is where you will stick. In other words, you will say, this is my viewpoint and these are the reasons why I have that viewpoint, and stick solely with the pro. If you find that the counter argument is maybe better than the one that you're having, then you can go that route. But please don't include both in the argumentative essay, because then it will obviously then be what we call the discursive essay and not the argument. The discursive essay here is objective. It avoids the personal pronouns. So here you're going to be writing in third person. Okay? You are going to also make sure that the tense that you are using here, please, grade 12s, is the present tense. So you have to give us an indication of your opinion at the end of the essay. But this should only be done in the conclusion. So throughout the discursive essay, you're offering both viewpoints. And only in the conclusion do you give us your viewpoint. Okay. Please note, you should present both sides of the argument in a balanced way. So we can't lean to one side of the coin. It has to be both balanced consistently throughout the essay. Because if you then lean to the one side only, then it should effectively have been an argumentative essay and not the discursive essay. All right? Let's go on a little bit further with this discussion. Looking at the reasons that you give, please note they must be there to support your viewpoint. So you use those linking words I mentioned to you previously to connect the reasons as to why you have this particular view. So for example, a topic like technology has improved our lives. Okay. So how would you go about writing an introduction here? Here's an example for you. Some people believe that technology is bad, whilst others believe it is fantastic. So you're giving a balanced view. Some believe this, and then some also believe this. However, everyone must agree that now it is hard to imagine the world without it. Technology cannot be blamed for what goes wrong in the world. We should rather blame the people who use it badly. So can you see that balanced view? He's not agreeing, nor is he disagreeing with the topic. But he is saying that technology clearly does have both a good and a bad side to it. And where does the blame actually lie when it is misused? Okay. So let's look at your checklist here for the argumentative first, and then we'll go to the discursive. So when you use the essay writing genre of argumentative, you have to check, have you expressed your view in an original manner? Have you validated your view with reasons? And have you proved that it is the case with the reasons given? Have you written in the present tense and used words such as forever or furthermore or therefore? Did you make use of emotive language, but not in a rude manner, please? And did you summarize your viewpoint and restate this in the conclusion? Then look at the discursive. Have you presented both sides of the argument? Have you again used linking words to connect the ideas? Have you written in the present tense? Did you write in the third person? Remember, that's crucial because you are not arguing one viewpoint where you would then be able to use I believe so. Okay, so in the discursive, the third person. Did you state both sides of the views that you hold and then conclude by stating yours only in the conclusion, not before that? All right, grade 12. So I've taken you through quite a few, and we come to the last one that we're going to discuss. And this is the expository essay. Now, the expository essay is a well-researched essay, as I mentioned before, and it is supported by what we call facts and figures. So if you have chosen to write about in the expository essay genre, you need to ensure that you have all the facts and all the figures and that it is actually true. You can't give us, for example, a stat like 1 in 4 people, da 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 da. And then when we go and research the fact or we look for the fact, it's actually not the case. Okay. So when you're saying that 1 in 4 people or 2 in 4 people, for example, experience this, it has to be valid stats in the expository essay. Okay. So please ensure it is well researched when you are writing this essay. It's factually based, as I mentioned to you, and you communicate your ideas or information that you hold about this particular topic in a systematic manner. So you move from point 1 to point 2 to point 3 and thereafter point 4 and 5. Logical definitely has to be the buzzword. Do I make sense in this factual essay that I'm writing? If you're not making sense, then it obviously has not appealed to the reader. Have you taken us from the known to the unknown? Okay. And remember, it's generally written in the present tense. So you're taking us through this in the present tense. So let's look at an example topic here. Explain the likely consequences of not adhering to social distancing regulations during the COVID-19 pandemic. So, how would you essentially look at that particular topic? Now, remember, grade 12s, it is a current situation we are going through. COVID-19 has not gone anywhere. It's still very much alive and with us. So when you are explaining the consequences of not adhering to social distance, you will have to give us facts. To say, for example, and this is just an example. Say you went to a restaurant and there was no social distancing. Okay? What happened? As a result, because you were in the restaurant, people were taking off their masks, for example, and there was obviously free-flowing conversation happening. Then, the result of that, very possible, is that there could have been a person who was maybe asymptomatic there. And now you go in there like the brave spark that you are, and you carry on and you have a good conversation with people, take off the mask, keep away, not keeping the social distance. And thereafter, you get home, and 24 hours later, you feel this heavy head, and you feel like your nose is about to run away from you. And then you say, whoa, I don't feel good. Okay. Now, I have just taken you through some likely consequences of not adhering to social distancing. Result is you start to feel sick, and thereafter you test, and then we get a result. So when you're doing this expository essay, look at the facts. Now, I said this is an example that could have happened. So if it did happen like that, you will then say, for example, in that particular place or restaurant, there were a maximum of 10 people. And based on the fact that there was 10 people, how did you know that? Because there was a register sort of signed at the entrance of who's coming in, temperature checked, all of those things. So those are things that you will include in the essay. All right, take us through the process. But we always have to have the facts. It's not about just an odd situation that happened that you have no idea how you got to that viewpoint. So look at that particular kind of writing as well. A good one to work with. All right. Then in terms of your paper 3, grade 12s, or even essays given to you, topics given to you for your SPA, we have that one part, which is the visual stimuli. Now, remember, not all of us can take a statement and write a beautiful essay. Some of us are maybe more leaning towards looking at a picture and then being inspired by the picture to write about something. So in your paper 3 or in your SPA task for the essay, you will be given the option of going the route of the visual. So look at the visual that's given to you. And here you will see the instruction as well. It says, it wants to invoke or stir up in you a particular viewpoint. So you'll be given that. And when you get the viewpoint from looking at the image, you then got to write the essay. So this is a nice one to also look at, because sometimes the topics given to you in the paper may not appeal to you at all. I'm talking about the written one, the words. And then when you see a picture, then something in that picture will bring a viewpoint. And from there, you then write the essay based on that viewpoint. Now, we're not saying every single part of the image has to be giving you a viewpoint, but you have to obviously include one or two things that are in the image that gives you that particular viewpoint. Right, so how do we interpret the visuals? So you as the candidate, you may interpret the picture in any way you want to, as long as an aspect is chosen and you have spoken about that. Right? Further on to that, you get to now choose any type of essay. So you're no longer limited to maybe writing only a reflective or a discursive or an argumentative essay. You now can choose any essay that you want to write, type of essay you want to write on when you look at the visual. Your interpretation, please, must be linked to the pictures. So don't just go and think about some topic in, that or an essay you found on the internet and then take that and try and put it into the image. No, it's not going to happen. First and foremost, it will be plagiarized piece of work and you will not get the marks for that. And secondly, you'll have to go and then redo a task, for example, and it's all that effort gone down the drain. So make sure to save yourself the embarrassment, do an original piece of work and look at all the topics and find one that appeals to you. So link the pictures, please, to your viewpoint. You should then give your essay a suitable title. So when we have the visuals given to us, here are some things you can look at. Please, you can interpret it, as I said, in any way you want to interpret it. Okay? You can also choose to write any essay as long as your visual is going to link to that type of essay. You can interpret this image either literally or figuratively. Now, literally means you see the picture of a dragon, maybe, and a little boy. Now you describe this enormous figure that is now terrorizing the small image, which is the boy, and you carry on. That can be a literal one. Figurative, you can talk about what? Maybe where something seems so small and insignificant, but it can take on the biggest ideas in the world and also defeat it. So we've moved from the literal way of writing something to the figurative way of writing. Okay? Then please, you must ensure that your response is, as I mentioned, linked to the picture and giving that particular essay a topic. Now, when you are looking at essay topics that are given to you, please look at the setting that is asked of you here and any relationship that might exist in the image. Okay? So the background. Where is this image coming from, for example? Some of that detail is given in the visual stimuli. More importantly, please ensure that you avoid this, which is pre-prepared responses. Do not, grade 12s, at any point think it's okay to take someone else's piece of work and put it through as your own. It's not going to make sense, first and foremost. And secondly, you will be caught. And thirdly, it then leaves a very, very bad image of you in the reader's mind. So please stay away from that. You have over 7 topics that you can choose from, and one of them will definitely, you know, be something that you would want to write about. So please don't be caught on the bad side of writing the exam. So be creative, grade 12s, and attract our attention in all the pieces of work that you are writing. And please remember to kiss. What do I mean about please remember to kiss? Please keep it short and simple. Don't ramble on because you want to get to 400 words and then you realize, I can't get there. Okay? It's not going to happen. So make sure that what you are thinking about, you actually work with. Right. Then we have a simple approach for you. There are 9 steps to write an essay, and hopefully you work with that. The first one, read your essay question thoroughly. When you have that, please then go through the 7 topics, and choose the one you're going to write on. Once you've done that, look at outlining an essay. Look at the structure of that essay that you chose to write on. Then write the essay. And when you're writing the essay, obviously make sure you look at the writing process here. When you're looking at the writing process, you will then look at writing, firstly, the introductory paragraph. Capture my attention. Then move on to the body, which is that meat of your essay, remember, where you have 3 or 4 paragraphs. Please write interesting parts in those 3 paragraphs. And then finally, write the conclusion and make sure it's linked to the introduction. And then finally, from there, grade 12s, please remember to edit the piece of work. Do not submit something without editing it, because in the haste of trying to finish up the essay, you can miss words here and there. And if you do that, then it doesn't always work out where it's a spotless piece of work. So please do remember to edit. All right? And then once you've done the editing process, you will then do the final piece of work and then submit that for marking. So here's an example of a visual stimuli that was taken from the 2019 NSC paper. So here you go. You have an image of a vase there with flowers or roses in this instance, roses that have obviously now dried out. Okay. So you can choose, for example, to write about anything here. From being a beautiful young person to now becoming old, and how that has now affected you. Okay, where your flexibility or your way to live or the way you used to live life before is no longer the way you live it now. That's one part of it. Or you could then look at the dominant image here in this picture is obviously the dried flowers. Okay, so your topic and your essay will be influenced by this image. So you can look at things such as moral decay, degeneration. This would be degeneration of life, where you were born as this bright and, fiery looking individual, full of life and sass. And what happens thereafter, as life occurs, you then eventually start aging and you wither away into the final pieces, final times of life. Then you could look at maybe a theme of death. Okay. Again, you grow up from where you are to that young lad or young lady, and then eventually it all results in death. Okay. Loss maybe of something, or even maybe the breakdown in relationships that you have seen over your lifetime. So that can be used as aspects to deal with in this particular piece of work, the image. And there you have it, grade 12. So we've gone through the entire types of essays that you would be able to work with in grade 12. And you should have learned by the time you got to grade 12 over the years that these are the types of essays I have, and you should have mastered at least one or two by now, if not all. But if you haven't mastered all and you have a forte for maybe one or two of them, then make sure you do yourself a favor where you go and take the papers from the last 5 years. That's your paper 3. And you look at the types of topics that were given and then practice writing the various types of essays. You will see in that particular paper, grade 12, that the 7 topics or the 6 topics and the 7 modules, the stimuli, will give you various ways or various, opportunities to write on different things. And these would be things that have affected you over your lifetime, things you have experienced over your lifetime, things you are still experiencing currently in your social media world, for example. So look at the topics there and then see, does this topic fit as a narrative, a descriptive, or maybe a reflective essay? Whichever one you choose to write on that particular topic, take the slideshow, for example, that you've gone through here, and then look at it. Or even the notes that your teachers give to you at school. They give you quite a lot of resources. Look at those resources and say, if I'm going to write the narrative essay, have I done this? Make a checklist like I've shown you here during the lesson. Make a checklist of whether you've achieved what you set out to achieve at the beginning of writing that essay. All right. And then I want to definitely wish you all the best. I know that there's a time now where we are getting concerned that it's going into half of the year of grade 12. We're going to then work with exams now, and everything becomes more serious at this point in time, which I hope has occurred previously to now, because we don't wake up in the second term to realize I'm in matric. No. We should realize that in the first term and work with things there thoroughly. But again, as I mentioned previously, if you had the opportunity of the essay that was given to you and you didn't really do well in that and you want to then rewrite the task, you are more than welcome to approach your educators and ask them for an expanded opportunity. And then redo your task and then see if you are able to get a better mark. But do not go there when you haven't attempted the task in the first instance and now you want an expanded opportunity. You should have done the task at the beginning when it was given to you, unless there was something serious that happened in life which didn't allow you to write the task. Again, it's what you are experiencing, and you have the opportunity now to reflect and go and ask for an opportunity to rewrite the task. However, come the exams, paper 3, there's no opportunity to ask to write again. So you need to ensure that you master the skills before you get into that exam room for your paper 3. Grade 12s, remember please that this is the highest scoring paper and it carries the most weight. So if you go and write an essay and you don't achieve a good mark in the essay, you are putting yourself already on the back foot. So it's something that is creative. You have all the liberties to go and write about experiences in life. So make sure that you do a good job at it. Don't take it for granted. Okay? 100 marks is a lot of marks when you put it together, especially with 2 exam papers that you would work with. Good. So I want to say thank you for being with me during this session, and I do look forward to seeing you again. Please ensure that you always are sanitizing, maintaining your social distancing, even though you are in a classroom with your friends, for example, during the day, and you would in the company of teachers. Ensure, grade 12s, that where possible, you keep the social distance. And at all times, your best friend should be your mask. So keep on your mask, maintain the social distance, and please keep safe throughout this year and for many years to come. I wish you well, and until I see you again, goodbye.